So Scope 3 emissions are everything that sits outside of our direct generation of carbon, and that's from areas like transport activity, so people commuting to and from our sites and moving between sites. So it's quite easy to capture all the direct emissions from things like buildings and energy use, the activities we take on site. But Scope 3 is a little bit harder to define and a little bit harder to capture, but does make up quite a significant amount of our overall impact on the environment. I've worked in sustainability for a number of years. I've worked at the university for a number of years and seen the positive trends building and the progress we've been making. So, I think we all want to live in a sustainable society. We want to manage our impact on the environment and on our the local conditions. You see the headlines around Southampton, some of the air quality issues that have been growing. We've now got an opportunity to really sort of double down and make an impact on the city. The university is really well placed to do that. The trends in our behaviour in our generation are definitely going in the right direction, and now is a time to really pick that up and accelerate with the improvements.
Really important that one of the first things we do is look at our baseline emissions. We've got some fairly good numbers already on some of our Scope 1 and Scope 2, so that's energy related emissions, for example, but we really need to look closely at Scope 3, which are the emissions that stand outside that, so supply chain emissions, for example, and emissions to do with transport, travel, whether it's staff working or students travelling or staff travelling to work. Because we need that big picture. If we don't have that big picture, we don't know where the big problems are in terms of our emissions with respect to sustainability, and we don't know where we can focus our investment quickly to get a maximum return and really quick reduction in our emissions profile, and also where it's going to take a lot more capital intensive investment, potentially even behavioural change in habits and practices for students and staff, so that we can reduce our emissions to hit our targets long term. Without that empirical background, we really risk putting money in the wrong places, and if we run it too fast, there's a risk we'll just respond to some of the big sort of policy or media responses on climate change and not what the actual numbers are, which really need to be driving our policy and strategy.
We've been working towards carbon reduction targets up to 2020. We've now committed to being carbon neutral by 2030, so that's a step change in terms of the direction of the university, in terms of the amount of change that we'll need to generate in the next 10 years. So looking at things like our bus service that we run, how could we make that carbon neutral by looking at electric vehicles, maybe hydrogen powered vehicles. So that sort of discussions have taken place already, and we're trying to develop plans for those elements. Increasing the amount of people who are cycling and walking to sites. Walking has been growing. Cycling, I would say, is sort of over the last couple of years probably slowed down, but the pandemic and the current situation has seen a lot more people out cycling, buying bikes, a lot of promotion around cycle routes in the city. So all these things will add up to a change, but then as a university we've got to really embrace them and really get people to use those services.
Over the last year, we've been doing a series of measures to try and improve our sustainability, from opening our new zero waste shop, our vegan vegetarian cafe, The Plant Pot, and putting on a series of sustainability spotlight events. Our clubs and societies have also been doing a range of sustainability measures, from campaigning to conservation activity.
One way to collect data has been through travel surveys of staff and student travel activities, so how people are commuting to and from our sites. Within that, we've set targets to reduce car use, because cars do make up a significant amount of our overall carbon generation. So we've had a regular survey taking place every 3 years for students, every 2 years for staff, and that's given us a good baseline to say that we are reducing car use, reducing carbon generation, and now we need to step that up and continue the positive trends and start to really drive down the carbon that we're generating through those movements.